So today we welcome to the summits, the Convert. So today we welcome to the Convert with Confidence Summit. I'm super excited to talk to Barbara Huson. Barbara is the leading authority on women, wealth, and power, which I'm sure everybody here is excited about these three words. And as a best-selling author, financial therapist, teacher, and wealth coach, Barbara has helped millions take charge of their finances and their lives. Because let's face it, if we don't have control of our finances, our lives are going to be, all over the place. So Barbara also has her master's degree in counseling psychology, and her extensive research and her personal experience with money has given her a unique perspective and what makes her the foremost expert on empowering women to live up to their financial and personal potential. So huge mouthful right there. But Barbara, would you mind first sharing with us, how did you first get started helping women with money?
Oh my God, this is not at all something I thought I'd be doing with my life. Seriously. It's kind of insane where life takes you in the least expected places. So I grew up wealthy. My father was the R of H&R Block. And the only advice he ever gave me about money was don't worry. Because under that was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you. And I thought that was great advice. I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And there was always a man. First, there was my father. And then there was my husband, who was a stockbroker. So he was perfect, right? Well, I found out very early in our marriage that my husband, my Prince Charming, was a compulsive gambler. And I find out every year, many times a year, that he was losing my money, my inheritance. And the insane part is I continued to let him manage the money because that's how terrified and intimidated I was by anything financial. Finally, after 15 years, we got a divorce. And I decided I do not want to deal with money. Money's not my thing. I don't want to deal with it. Well, the universe had other plans for me. I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. I got what?
I love that. It's so true.
I did not love it at the time. What happened is I got tax bills for way over $1 million, almost $2 million for back taxes my ex didn't pay, for illegal deals he got us in. My signature was on everything. I just signed whatever he told me to sign. I did not have anywhere close to $1 million. My ex had left the country and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that's when I knew I had to get smart. I had 3 daughters. They were young. One was just a baby. I was not going to raise those girls on the street. So I started doing, what you're supposed to do. I read the books, I went to classes, and my eyes would glaze over, my brain would fog up, and I just felt terminally stupid. But I was committed. I had those daughters. I did not want them to grow up to be like me. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I really believe when you make a commitment, like a down to your toes, no backdoor commitment, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And at the time, I was a journalist writing for the San Francisco Business Times. And I was hired for a freelance project to interview women who were smart with money. And those interviews changed my life. I not only got smart about my money, but I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, How Women Get Smart About Money. And now, 7 books later, here I am, an expert in finances, talking to you. It's like, who knew?
That's incredible. Yeah, I know one place you may have maybe worked with clients who have dealt with this, but I remember I used to say things like, I am not a numbers person. I am not a numbers girl. In fact, I remember a habit I had was I used to have fear around looking at my checking account. And I wasn't budgeting.
Me too. I don't look at my checking account. I have somebody do my QuickBooks. Numbers and money are not correlated. You do not have to be good at numbers to be good at money. I mean, that's why they have calculators. That's why you have bookkeepers. That's why you have a whole team of people to help you. So that's a myth that you have to be good at numbers.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean? I'm sure the audience is asking, what does it mean to be good with money? Like, how do you know when you're good with money?
When money ceases to be a source of distraction and stress,
Wow.
and it becomes a tool for living a meaningful and peaceful life. So if you are having stress or worries or any kind of anxiety around money, it's a problem. If money is simply there to support you in living the life you desire and deserve, then it's not a problem.
Mhm. Yeah. And I know a lot of these coaches and consultants, I know me myself in the past, or maybe you viewers watching are chasing the next client or chasing the next paycheck, and profit margins are tight. And it's like this, it's like maybe some of us are even in the negatives or just breaking even, right, with our businesses. Have you ever worked with people like that?
Was it a question? I missed the question.
I wasn't
Sorry.
sure if that's something you've seen in people you've worked with,
So
or
here's the thing. I work exclusively with women. And I will tell you, I have known this, I've been doing this for 27 years. And I knew right from the beginning, women's problems with money have little, if anything, to do with money. Most people's problems with money have nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. It's about who you have to become in order to be a container that can attract, that can sustain, and that can grow your wealth. And that's what it's never about money.
yeah, that's really powerful. And I'm really curious, like, in your own words, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see maybe coaches or consultants make when it comes to managing their money? Maybe our profit margins, again, are really small, or running our businesses into the ground, or even breaking even. Where do some of these habits come from?
Our habits come from the way we have been conditioned. Usually we inherit our habits from our family of origin or from those we have surrounded ourselves with. And one of the biggest problems that I see many people make is avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, you know what it all boils down to? It's when they let fear make the decisions for them.
Yeah.
It's all fear. And when they, and always on the other side of fear, there's power. So the number one requirement for going to the next level in money, in anything, I mean, to going to the next level, whether it's making more money or losing more weight, is the willingness to be uncomfortable, the willingness to do to what you fear. The second book I wrote, after I wrote Prince Charming Isn't Coming, I was an under-earner, chronic under-earner, 40 some years of my life. And I decided, okay, I want to get over my under-earning. So I started interviewing women who made 6 and 7 figures. I started interviewing high earners. And I started making 6 figures, 3-4 times what I ever made before I even finished writing the book. And I think I learned a lot from them, but the biggest thing, these women were extremely confident, and I expected them to be very confident. But as we got deeper into the interviews, I saw how every single one struggled with fear, struggled with self-doubt, how 95% felt like a fraud and were afraid others were going to find out. And I thought, oh my God, that's just like me. Yeah. But the difference between them and me is they felt the fear and they did it anyway. They didn't let the fear stop them. And that was a watershed moment. That is what enabled me to go out and make 6 figures, is by doing what I fear.
Mm-hmm. It's like, instead of using fear as an excuse, you're using it as a reason to, right?
It's like the obstacle is the path. The fear will point you in the direction you need to go, because power always hides behind fear. So you go where you fear, and that's where you're going to find your power.
I love that. Yeah. Using it as a reason, like a thing to lean into versus running away. It's so interesting that you said that, because I literally just had a session with a client. It was the same thing. I was like, what is the difference between, what I'm doing? Why am I moving forward? And why is this one client struggling? And I was really thinking about it. I was like, oh, wait a minute. We all have fear, right? No, I don't think none of us go through life without fear. But some of us are doing it anyway, and some of us are letting it be the reason we're not doing it.
And I think what's really important in not letting fear stop you, especially for women, is not trying to do it alone, is getting support. Because we women are so relationship oriented. And it makes such a difference when we have somebody there to say, you go girl, to cheer us on, to hold us accountable, to say you can do it. And I think that's really important. It's not the absence of fear that you're right. We all have fear. It's how do we overcome that fear? And I think getting support is one of the best ways.
Yeah. Surround yourself with people who you want to be like, just like you did. Like, so what do they say? You're like the average of the 5 people you hang out with. I probably got that wrong, but
no, I think you got that right.
And Barbara, you talked about this word under earners. And I'm really curious, and I'm sure this audience is curious. What do you mean by who is an under earner?
An under earner is anyone who earns less than she needs or desires, despite her efforts to do otherwise. It has nothing to do with the amount you make. You can make 6 figures and still be an under earner, and you can make less and not be. I'll give you the example. I have 2 daughters. One's a journalist and one's a organic farmer. Neither one of them make a lot of money, but they are not under earners. They are I call them mindful low earners. They're doing what they love because it feeds their soul, and they make enough to meet their needs. Well, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and make a lot of money, but under earning is about far more than it's a condition of deprivation, and not just of money, but of time, of joy, of choices, of self-esteem.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were saying earlier about doing the things that on the other side is power. And one thing that was coming up for me, and I'm sure maybe coming up for some viewers here, is like, for me, like the fear of hiring someone. So maybe part of it is like bringing on, not a VA, because I know I can pay a VA, but for me, there's anxiety around bringing on like another digital marketing expert. Maybe we need help with our funnels, or we need help with some ads, but there's a fear of like, oh, now and this comes with my clients as well. It's like, well, now I'm paying them, now that's money going out, but we forget about the money we're going to get coming back.
Well, and also what you want to do is be strategic about it. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you have the money to do that. So the anxiety is not a bad thing if you check it and you budget it and you run it by your accountant or something. Mm. But it's important that you pay attention to, you don't want to just pour money into the business if you can't cover it.
Yeah. That's a good point. I tend to be an emotional spender. So when I'm on the phone with the right person, it sounds like a great fit. I'm like, oh my gosh, how can we get started? And I know that's a habit I need to strengthen, is actually go back and run the numbers. So maybe some of you guys can also resonate with that there. Yeah,
I think it's important. It's very important to be strategic. And sometimes the anxiety can be information telling us we need to do our due diligence. We need to protect ourselves. We need to make a few more sales before we hire that person. We need to budget for it.
Yeah. Can you share with us maybe like one habit that you saw that was the difference between like a 7-figure earner or a multiple 6-figure earner versus maybe an under earner or somebody who's struggling and hasn't even hit that 6-figure mark yet?
Okay, there's 3 rules to wealth. Spend less, save more, invest wisely. Wealth does not come from what you earn. Wealth comes from what you do with what you earn. So the 3 habits that are important is to spend less than you have, save more than you need, and put at least a portion of your money in assets that will grow faster than inflation and taxes take it away.
Yep. It's powerful too. Yeah. How many of you out there are investing in something? I mean, is this like an IRA or like real estate, things like that?
Now, I'm talking about there's only 5 places to invest. Only 5 places to put your money. There's stocks, bonds, cash, real estate, and commodities. That's all. 5 places. Your business, especially if you're a startup or you're not making a lot of money, people say, well, that's an investment. No, that's speculation. That's gambling. You want to put it in places that are solid companies, solid bonds, solid real estate that have a good reputation and are conservative. And then you can get more speculative as you go along. But your business is a very risky investment.
Wow. Yeah. I can think of the amount of money that I have spent that has gone out that I haven't gone back. And we think of that, our business as an investment, right? Because as we invest, we get it back, but is it going to grow necessarily? Not necessarily.
No, there's a difference between making a smart investment and gambling. And when you invest when you put money in just willy-nilly, when you don't have a plan and you put it in the highest performing thing, or someone tells you something, or you put it in a startup and that's the only thing, which most of our businesses are, startups are very near there. That's gambling. Mm-hmm. The whole point of investing, the whole point is to make sure that we do not outlive our money, that we have enough money to meet our short-term goals, our midterm goals, and our long-term goals.
Yeah.
It's not to amass a fortune. Yeah, that would be nice. But it's really to protect ourselves now and as we grow older. And I think it's really important to create a plan. Otherwise, you're just doing it willy-nilly, and you really can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm curious, Barbara, why do you think so many business owners don't go after their potential?
Why do so many people? Why do the masses live in quiet desperation?
Yeah.
There's only one reason: because they're scared. Because they're scared. Because when you're not going after your potential, you're living in self-protection. That's basically the two things. You either go after your potential because you have passion and purpose, and that's what drives you, or you don't because you're scared and you're afraid. I believe all acts of self-sabotage are really acts of self-protection.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you watching, how maybe are you protecting yourself versus going and putting yourself out there? I know that's one of the most common fears, is like putting ourselves out there as an authority. We want to make 6 figures. We want to make 7 figures, but we're afraid to be seen. We're afraid to be heard.
And here's what I've learned from successful people is when you take the emphasis on profit, when you want to make a profit, but you put the emphasis on purpose, when you really want to make a difference, and when your whole goal is to serve. Yes, you want to make a lot of money. And yes, you're being strategic about it. Absolutely. But what drives you, what really drives you, is serving. How can you be of service? How can you make a difference? And I know for me, that gives me a lot of courage.
Yeah. Well, is there like a tip you can share with this audience? Maybe some of them are starting out in their business, or maybe they are in a tight place, and it can feel like we are so driven by, like, we need to get that next client. We need to close that next sale. And maybe we feel like we're stuck in this vicious cycle of like needing that next sale. But really, it's just like you said, right?
Because you're in the cycle of fear. There's only 2 emotions. Everything boils down to love or fear. And anytime you're in fear, you're going to short circuit a process. You're going to short circuit your creativity. You're going to short circuit everything.
Yeah.
The idea is to get out of that fear and into your heart, into your soul, into love, into why you're here. What is your purpose? What are you on this planet to do? And think of the people who need you. And how can you reach them in the most authentic, transparent way?
Yeah. Authentic. Who are you when you are being authentic? I think a lot of us don't know the answer to that.
Right. We've been conditioned from the beginning of time to believe we're otherwise. And I think that's what's so exciting about this process. You think it's about money, but it's not. It's about discovering who you are under that lead blanket of prior conditioning.
Yeah. I know I was taught to be nice, very nice, but it wasn't like real nice. It was like manipulative nice. It was like, let me see if I can get what I want by being nice. And what kind of clients did I end up working with? They were not high value. They were not like high ticket clients, because high ticket clients and buyers shop very differently than more low quality leads.
Well, what you were doing is you were giving away your power. You didn't own your power.
Yeah.
that you could do this, that you were capable of it. And people smell that. They smell it. They can feel it when you don't own your power.
Yeah.
And I define my definition of a powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. So essentially, our fear of power is our fear of becoming all of who we're meant to be and not watering ourselves down so we don't make waves.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this audience struggles with shame and guilt. There's like shame and guilt around charging for, and I know this was something I struggled with, was like feeling bad because it felt like we were taking money from people versus it being like a win-win situation. It was more of like a win-take situation. You know what I mean?
Because you don't value yourself.
Mhm.
You don't value what you have. All business is an exchange of value. That's all it is. I give you a service and you pay me for it. We exchange value. That's all it is. When you start making more of it, you start you complicate it. It doesn't need to be so complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really just like an exchange of value. So I think we often internalize people's objections. We get a lot of time, money, and objections, and then we end up internalizing it, making it mean that we aren't worth it. We're not good enough as coaches, when really what is it really, right? They haven't seen the
It's
value.
really people's projecting onto you their own crap. They project onto you, oh, that's too expensive. That's too expensive. Has nothing to do with you. It's my own fear of parting with my money. It's my own fear of maybe it doesn't work. It's my own terror that I'll never change. Everything is a projection. And when you take it personally, you really shoot yourself in the foot. Now, one thing I learned from successful women, I always write books about what I want. I'm not an expert in any book I write. I write books in order to learn because I want to. And I learned so much from interviewing successful women. And it's so interesting. I asked every woman, are you doing what you're doing for the money? And they all said, no, I'm doing it for the recognition. I'm doing it for the challenge. I'm doing it for the excitement. I'm doing it because it's my purpose. But at the same time, every single one said almost the exact same words. But I damn well want to be well compensated because I know I'm worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the atrophied muscle that so many of us have to build, is that we have something to give. And all we need to know, I keep this right next to me on a frame on my desk. I kept it for 27 years. And it's a quote, and it says, a true teacher is not one with the most knowledge, but one who causes most others to have knowledge. So I don't need to know everything. I just need to know a little bit more than you and inspire you to get smarter.
Yeah, it's so powerful because I think we often think we have to be there as coaches. We have to be masters. We have to, but you're really just helping. Most of us are helping a younger version of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in your
book,
an
older version of ourselves.
Yeah. But it's someone who's like on a similar path, right? There's a reason we're on this path. There's a reason we are coaches. There's a reason you want to be a coach, right? There's a reason that it's like you said, the universe is like conspiring, and it's like an itch we can't ignore. It's chosen us.
Yeah, and we're called. We are called to do this work, and everyone who is a coach or anything, you're called. But what it forces you to do, it forces you to become more of who you thought you were to begin with.
Yeah. And I know, Barbara, in your book, you said, wealth doesn't come from what you earn. And I'm really curious to know what you mean by that statement, because I think a lot of us are fixated on, again, the next sale or the revenue.
Yeah, that's great. But one of my biggest surprises interviewing high earners, 6- and 7-figure women, is how few of them were wealthy, because they were so busy making money that they didn't take the time or have the knowledge or the interest to manage it. I remember interviewing a woman, Now, this was in the year 2000. She made over $700,000 a year as an executive in the entertainment industry. And she said to me, I feel one step away from a refrigerator cart on the street. I said, how is that possible? She said, my biggest investment was shoes and Neiman Marcus. It's not what you bring in, it's what you keep, and what grows more than inflation can take it away. Earning what will not make you wealthy. I mean, I have so many stories of a janitor who earned $7,000 a year and died with $8 million. I have so many stories like that. It doesn't take a lot of money to create wealth. It's small steps consistently taken over time that create the wealth by spending less, saving more, and investing wisely.
I say, even if you're brand new to the coaching world, right? I mean, is it ever too early to start to learn how to manage money? Let's say, even if you're only bringing in a couple thousand a month.
I taught my kids when they were still in school.
I wish I had that when I was younger.
Well, because they were still in school when I was going through all my crap and trying to learn. So we learned together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, you start as soon as you can. You don't need money to learn this.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that just opened a whole new set of doors for me, because I think oftentimes we're waiting till, well, let me wait till I'm making this much, and then I'll have something to manage. Right?
You manage money every day. If you just take, when I sold my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, when I sold it to Penguin, I remember going to New York and having lunch with my editor. And I remember at lunch saying to her, do you invest? And she goes, oh, no, I don't invest. And I could tell she was embarrassed, because I know New York editors, they pay so little. So I dropped the subject. So a year went by, she edited my book. Another year went by, my book was out. Didn't hear from her. 2 years from that lunch, I get a call from her. And I said, oh, she goes, you remember that lunch we had in New York? I said, of course. She said, I told you I had no money. Well, I did. I had a little in my retirement account, but it was sitting fully in cash. And I knew that was kind of foolish, but it wasn't until I started working on your book that I realized how dumb it was. So she said, I went out and I found a financial advisor who helped me get it invested. And then I would take my spare change at the end of the day and I put it in a jar. And the end of the month, I would put it in the bank. And that's how I started saving. And after a while, I started buying a few little stocks here and there outside of mine. And wow, I was so excited. But then she said to me, what I hear all the time from women just like that, who just don't have any money hardly at all. And they start small, but they are consistent. She said to me, to tell you, Barbara, I feel so powerful. And that's why I do what I do. I want every woman, every person on earth to be able to say to themselves in the mirror, I feel so powerful.
Yeah. And I know you have a free gift for this audience, but just as you were talking there, I was remembering, like, I spent the first 6 years of my business, the biggest mistake I made. And I'm so glad you brought up consistency in creating these habits. I never built the habit of paying myself. And I was wondering why I was stuck at a job. And then I was like, I'll pay myself down the road. I'll pay myself when. And when never came until I got laid off.
It's a really good example. You're not alone. A lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
It's not smart. It's not why we run businesses.
Building that habit. Yep. And then what happened was, when I got laid off, I just started building $200 every couple of weeks. And then that doubled after a month. And then that doubled after a month. And actually that was what built the confidence in knowing I could pay myself, because there was a fear with taking money out of the business and paying myself. And I think a lot of business owners and coaches, especially starting out, there is that fear of paying myself, because the business needs it. We need to hire people. We need all of the fancy apps and software.
I think if you want to hire anyone, business owners, hire a bookkeeper. Hire a bookkeeper to keep your books, hold you accountable, to go over the profit and loss every month, to really look at the numbers.
Yeah.
That's much more important than a fancy app.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first person I actually brought on, was a bookkeeper. And what ended up happening was I didn't stay with her. So she reconciled once a year, but my books became a mess. So I'm rethinking this going forward. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. Was I'll figure it out. And of course we end up with our books in a mess as we are growing.
Wait, you only reconciled your books once a year?
I'm sorry, she filed once a year. She just did my filing. Sorry, I said that incorrectly.
Okay, so she didn't do your QuickBooks, or she didn't keep that. That's what you need. You need somebody to put down everything, to put everything in the record.
Yeah. And make sure it's accurate as well. It's important to keep it accurate. So I know, Barbara, you have a free gift for this audience to help empower them on our money journey. And boy, do we need help with managing our money and really learning to grow rather than this desperation for the next check. How can we start growing now? Can you share with this audience what you have?
Yeah, I really love this. I made a downloadable MP3 with a series of guided visualizations on overcoming under earning. So they're really just guided meditations that you can listen to. And most of them are in my book, Overcoming Under Earning, but there's 3 of them that aren't. They're just bonuses. And so I love this particular MP3.
I'm excited. So they're like meditations, guided.
Yeah, guided visualizations, meditations, where I walk you through a guided visualization, visualizing yourself doing whatever.
Awesome. So this can start to replace probably what you're typically playing in your mind, which is focusing on being broke. I remember I was focusing on being broke for a long time, and it was my coach that flipped that switch. She's like, stop focusing on that.
Because that's how you program your brain. Whatever you pay attention to is what gets put in the brain.
Yep.
And you don't change your behaviors. You change the cause of those behaviors, which is the way you think and the way you talk and the way you feel.
And all the beliefs and everything we've taken from our parents. I know my mom taught me money doesn't grow on trees. Money's hard to come by. Money's hard to get. Wealthy people are greedy. Like, these are things that I grew up learning. So of course, because money was always hard to come by, for me, money was always hard to come by.
Of course, of course. Your brain will not see, it will not do, it will not hear anything that does not confirm what it believes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is confirmation bias, right? This is
confirmation bias.
Yeah, so we'll keep proving ourselves right until we realize we don't want to prove ourselves right anymore with our bad habits. So for everyone, if you're ready to go on this journey yourself, you're ready to rewire your brain for wealth, which is one of Barbara's books. You can head over to Amazon, go check out her books. Obviously, this stuff's going to be life-changing when it comes to your habits. So click the link at the bottom, scroll to the bottom of the screen, click the link to go get these free guided visualizations to change your patterns on a subconscious level. So Barbara, I want to thank you for sharing all of this amazing insights for us to really, it's one thing to grow a business, but we have to think about growing our wealth as well, which is a separate business almost. So Barbara, I want to thank you so much for your time here and your insights, and go click the link, everybody. This link is only available for the next 48 hours. So go tackle your money habits. Barbara, thank you so much again for giving us just this. This is priceless information, especially if we want to hit multiple 6 or 7 figures. We got to learn the habits, right?
Thank you, Lydia.